Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today's video is all about sunscreens that I have found layer beautifully under makeup. We're gonna get into chemical sunscreens, mineral sunscreens, tinted and untinted sunscreens. I've got something hopefully for everyone, but with summer approaching, I know that this is gonna be top of mind for everyone, and so I thought I'd share some of my favorites today. At the end of this video, I also have a few recommendations of sunscreens that I've tried that I do not recommend purchasing if you're concerned about how they're gonna layer under makeup. I tried several throughout the years, and so I definitely have a couple that I would steer clear of, so we'll talk about those too at the end. Now, this of course is my experience wearing these sunscreens. If you have a very different skin type than I do, you might have a slightly different experience, but generally I've been feeling a little bit more dry, and so a lot of these sunscreens I'm testing in how they react with my dry skin under makeup. Just if you're new here, hi, my name is Molly. This is my new YouTube channel, The Beauty of It All. We talk about makeup tips, I go over product reviews and recommendations, and I try and create simple looks that are easy to replicate in your own home with the products that you have on hand. I'm also your newest Sephora employee and go-to gal, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, I'd love for you to subscribe. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some sunscreen today. Now, again, like I mentioned, I think it's so important to keep in mind that the best sunscreen for you is the one that you're gonna wear every day. So these are just my recommendations, but starting out with a couple of tinted sunscreen options. First up, we've got the Sun Touchable. This is the Whoa Glow from e.l.f. This is their broad spectrum SPF 30 sunscreen. This doubles as sun protection as well as a makeup primer, which is probably why I feel like it lays so nicely under makeup. It was designed to do that. So this gives a surprising level of coverage. I think that's something that I was really shocked about with this. I'm gonna be inserting some videos here throughout this of swatching them on my arm. Obviously, because I've got a full face of makeup on, I'm not gonna be able to put them on my face, but I will swatch them for you all. But this gives such a beautiful glowy feel to the skin. Again, it layers beautifully under makeup, and of course, this is a dupe for the Supergoop Glow Screen. A couple of differences between the two. The Supergoop Glow Screen has 4 shades. This one from e.l.f. has 3. The Supergoop also has a little bit higher SPF coverage, so it's got SPF 40, whereas this has SPF 30. But of course, there is also a huge price difference. So the Glow Screen costs $38, whereas this one from e.l.f. only costs $14. So less than half the price. But again, this is a beautiful product to wear under makeup. And again, it gives you just that hydrated, glowy skin. It's got hyaluronic acid as well as squalane in it, so it's very soothing and comfortable on your skin too. Next up for tinted sunscreens on more of the matte side of the spectrum, we've got this one from In Beauty Project. This is their Mineral Sun Glow Broad Spectrum SPF 43 PA+++ protection. For those that aren't familiar, PA+ just indicates that the sunscreen protects against UVA rays, in addition to SPF, which protects against UVB rays. But this is the shade Fair Medium. They do also have a medium dark shade, but this is a really, really beautiful sunscreen. It's a very light, almost like whipped texture, which makes it feel very breathable on the skin, especially if you're putting makeup over top of it. I found that this just layers really well, and it keeps the skin feeling fresh throughout the day, again, because it's a lighter texture. As you're wearing this with makeup, again, it doesn't pill, it doesn't get cakey, anything like that. And if you're wearing this on its own, I've also noticed that this is really easy to reapply, so it doesn't like pill on itself or look too heavy. It features ingredients like vitamin C and peptides, but it also has a rice extract, which specifically helps protect against blue light. So if you are someone that's like sitting behind a computer all day and you're worried about that blue light protection, this would be a one that I would recommend grabbing because it does have that added benefit where not all sunscreens do. In fact, this might be the only one I'm gonna talk about today that does include that blue light protection, which is amazing to see. Okay, moving on to mineral sunscreens. So this guy right here, if you would have asked me last summer, this sunscreen was my ride or die. This is the Summer Fridays Broad Spectrum SPF Mineral Milk Sunscreen. This is their shade drops. Now, I only gravitated away from this one because I just started wanting a higher level SPF coverage in my sunscreen. So again, this is SPF 30. It retails for $36. But you guys, this is absolutely stunning under makeup. First of all, the consistency just lends itself really well to wear under makeup because it's so easy to blend in. It's truly like a liquidy, like almost a milky texture, which sounds kind of weird, but it lays down so beautifully on the skin. It's got almost a satin matte finish to it, and it just grips to your makeup really well. I also noticed that this was pretty versatile with the different types of primers that I could use on top of this for my makeup. So even if you're thinking like kind of the most extreme, like the e.l.f. Power Grip Primer that I have, it worked well with this, which is pretty surprising since it's such a runny texture paired with that really gripping primer. I don't know, but it just worked and it was so comfortable to wear. Again, the only reason I started using other things was because I wanted a higher level SPF coverage, but all in all, this was a fantastic buy. If you haven't tried it before, I would highly recommend. The other mineral sunscreen option that I have is quickly climbing to the top of my favorites. This is the Innisfree, their Daily UV Defense Mineral Sunscreen with SPF 45. There are so many things about this sunscreen that I love. First off, the price point. This is sold in Sephora, so we're thinking like higher end sunscreens. It retails for $22, which is incredibly competitive with drug screen sunscreens. But beyond that, I love the finish of this. So it's got a satin matte finish, and it is very, very beautiful under makeup because I feel like whether you're putting more matte makeup on or more glowy makeup, you can kind of manipulate the way your skin looks because this just gives you a really even canvas. What's most interesting to me about this sunscreen though, and what I love the most about it, is it has a slight color correcting component. So I picked this up during the Sephora sale and I've been using this nearly every day since, but it has 8 types of hydrating hyaluronic acid and soothing silica, but it also helps to neutralize redness with that green tint. So we're not only correcting the color with the green tint to it, but because it's got the silica in it, it actually soothes and calms your skin. So if you have inflamed skin, if you have rosacea, if you just have like redness on your face, this is so fantastic. It's gonna be a must-have this summer. I really cannot say enough good things about this. I've never noticed any pilling. It never looks cakey. It never flakes on me. It's just a very high performing sunscreen for a very good price point. Switching over to chemical sunscreens now. So this is one that I really enjoyed. This is the Dr. Jart Every Sunday SPF 50 sunscreen. So it's got a similar texture to the Summer Fridays. This was actually the first sunscreen that I picked up when I was gravitating away from the Summer Fridays sunscreen because their textures just in store, they looked pretty similar, but this one has, like I mentioned, a higher SPF coverage with 50. So I was excited to try it. I really do like this sunscreen. Now I will say if you're incredibly oily, steer clear of this one. I don't think that you're gonna like it, but for, you know, more normal to combo and dry skin types, I think that you'll really enjoy this. My one call out with this sunscreen that I do notice that I do have to regularly powder my face with this, not multiple times a day, but I just mean that like when I do my makeup after wearing this, I just have to put maybe a little extra powder on than I normally would, which for me is not a bad thing. Like I'm, you know, 50 to 60% of the time I'm powdering my face anyway, like I do it fairly regularly. So it's not an added burden or an added step for me, but if you never wear powder, if you don't like to wear powder, and you're very oily, I don't think that you would enjoy this, but it is a really lightweight feel and it does not leave any white cast. I feel like it's super easy to blend into the skin and I feel like it absorbs really quickly, which is nice. So it's not one of those sunscreens where you have to let it sit there on your face before you feel like it's absorbed and wait like 10 to 15 minutes to put your makeup on. Like you can go in pretty quickly after with this guy. So it does definitely have some benefits for sure. Alrighty, so for all my very, very dry friends out there, this one is for you. This is the Naturium Dew Glow Moisturizer with SPF 50. It's actually SPF 50 and PA+++ protection. This sunscreen is fantastic. It can technically be a dual use product, so it can be your sunscreen and your moisturizer. I have personally had no problems putting my normal moisturizer on and then going in with this, but if you are someone, if you're in a rush and you don't have time to do both, this is a great multi-use product. but it just lays so well under makeup. It keeps your skin feeling hydrated throughout the day, which is really hard to do with sunscreens. But I just love this. Another cool thing about it, if you can see, the cap has a little divot here. This is intended to help you know exactly how much sunscreen you need to put on your face to get the accurate level of SPF protection. So I personally don't use it. I just put, it's a pump system. So I just put one pump on my forehead and then one on my chin, and then that covers me just fine. But if you like to be specific with how much sunscreen you're putting on, that's a nice added benefit. This one, again, SPF 50, it retails for $22, and it does have niacinamide in it, which my skin loves niacinamide, so this one has been such a win. If you're dry, this is a good one to check out for sure. I just grabbed mine at Target. All right, so then of course I have to include something from Supergoop, right? So this is the Unseen Sunscreen SPF 40 PA++ sunscreen. We know her, we love her. I feel like this is what kind of made sunscreen cool and like put sunscreen wearing on the map as like a good thing to do back, you know, whenever it was released, gosh, like 6 or 7 years ago, something like that maybe. This is a really good sunscreen. It does double as a primer, which is why I feel like it lays so well under makeup. I haven't used this in probably 6-ish months, maybe something like that. Only because I could be weird, but I prefer to see my sunscreen on and like seeing it blend into my face to know that I've blended it well, to know that I've put enough on, and to make sure that there's not any patches that I'm missing. So that's really the only reason why I stopped using this. It's a great sunscreen. It wears beautifully under makeup. It doesn't pill, but I just like to see where I'm putting sunscreen on, I guess. I don't know, maybe that's weird, but that's the only reason I stopped using it. I did also grab, this is just from Trader Joe's. This is their daily facial sunscreen broad spectrum SPF 40. This is of course a dupe for the Unseen Sunscreen, but just a couple of differences. Well, really just mainly one, price obviously. So this is gonna be $9 at Trader Joe's versus the Supergoop at $38. I really can't tell a big difference honestly between these two when I'm using it, so I don't have a ton of critiques or notes to share about this because I feel like they're so comparable. That being said, like, you probably just want to grab this one from Trader Joe's then if it's that much cheaper. But it wears well under makeup. It's a primer, you know, gives that clear effect as well. It is also fragrance free. I'm not sure if the Supergoop is fragrance free actually, now that I say that. It is, yes, it does say scentless, so I assume that means fragrance free. Anyway, all that to say, it's a similar option to the Supergoop sunscreen if you're looking for one. And lastly, something that I've started to look more into is like sunscreen reapplication. So if you look at any back of a sunscreen, it's gonna say reapply every 2 hours, which I don't know about you all, I'm not great about doing, especially if I have a full face of makeup on. I know I'm not doing. I'm religious about putting it on in the morning, not so much about the reapplication. So the one I wanted to mention, it's the only one I have, but it's this e.l.f. All Set for Sun Broad Spectrum SPF 45 sunscreen. It is said to be a sun protection and a setting spray. Now, I don't agree with the setting spray comment. That's just my personal opinion. And I'll be honest, this isn't a product that I'm like obsessed with, love, like telling you need to go check it out. It's what I have, so I wanted to mention it. It's fine. It's okay for those days where I am doing a skincare day or if I have just like a super lightweight skin tint on, but I do feel like this lends a little bit on the greasy side, if I'm being honest. So I'm not a huge fan of it, but it does the job in a pinch if I need it to. I do not think this is a setting spray though. Like in any stretch of the imagination would I say this is a setting spray. If anyone knows of a good like reapplication product, I've seen that Supergoop has some powders at work at Sephora that are like somewhat intriguing, but also not really, because I don't really want to keep putting powder on my face to reapply. Ideally, I would love like some type of spray that would put more SPF protection on, also hydrate, maybe give a little bit of a glow, but this one just lends too much on the greasy side. So if you know of anything in the comments, please let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys what you think is best. One honorable mention that I don't have in front of me that I did want to just quickly bring up, the Dr. Dennis Gross sunscreen. There are a couple different versions. I've used this in years past and just had a really good experience with it. Dr. Dennis Gross is also just a brand that I feel is really, really reputable. Like their products are just very high quality. So I don't think that you'd be disappointed if you tried that one out. Although I will say, since I last tried it, I believe it might have been reformulated. So like take that with a grain of salt, but it's maybe one worth swatching in store, or maybe getting a little sample of and trying it out. But then I do also want to talk about sunscreens that I've tried and just really did not work for a myriad of reasons. Now, this first one, I'm sure people are going to come for me. I know there's like a whole culture around this sunscreen, it seems, but the Kosas Dream Beam sunscreen, man, this did not work at all for me. It was pill city, you guys. So I purchased this not only once, but twice, because I was sure like this must be a me problem. Like I must not be prepping my skin right. I must be doing something wrong. Like this product has so much hype around it. Why is it not working for me? But it just didn't. Like I tried it a lot of different ways. I tried it with and without makeup, religiously every time it just pilled. So I personally would not recommend that. I've had a lot of them returned at Sephora actually saying the same thing. So maybe it's like a little more common than I think, but I don't know. I just don't hear a lot of people saying they dislike this sunscreen, but it did not work for me. And then lastly, the Drunk Elephant Tinted Sunscreen. This one was more of a texture thing. I don't recall it pilling much, but it was just really thick. Like it felt heavy on the skin and I don't feel like it absorbed easily. And the tint with this one in particular actually just looked really flat. It did not give vibrancy to my face. It didn't make me feel like I was like glowing or radiant. It just was a very flat looking sunscreen. So I just didn't love that one. And again, it just felt really gloopy and thick. So wasn't it for me, but I just wanted to toss those thoughts out there. I know I mentioned a lot of great sunscreens, wanted to provide some comparisons and some context for ones that I didn't have the best experience with as well, because I think that's important. But some quick final thoughts. I just wanted to toss out my top 2 recommendations. I know I've given rave reviews to a lot of these, so to try and narrow it down a bit, my best recommendation for dry skin is definitely this Naturium sunscreen. If you have really dry, dehydrated skin, I think you'll love this one. And then for oily skin, or really just, I would say this is my best sunscreen to layer under makeup overall, it's gonna be this Innisfree one. I think for the price point, for the innovative features like the color correcting and just the finish of it, it's a beautiful sunscreen under makeup, and I don't think you guys would be disappointed if you check this one out. So this one is probably like the winner of all of these today that I've mentioned. But with that, y'all, that kind of concludes what I wanted to chat about today. So I hope that this video was helpful if you're on the hunt for a new sunscreen. As we're getting into summer, I think we're all really ready for those very, very sunny days, being outside, but also protecting our face, which is super important. So if this was helpful, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and make sure and share this with a friend. But again, my name is Molly, and as always, thank you guys so much for joining me to chat about the beauty of it all. Bye, everyone.